Hello and welcome to Huddersfield Town's post-match show in association with Sportsbroker. After another defeat, this time to Middlesbrough, to talk us through what went wrong, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by former Huddersfield Town midfielder Ben Thornley and Huddersfield-born striker Cameron Jerome. How are you both? You okay?
Evening, Sam. Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Evening, Ben. How are you?
Hiya, Cameron. You okay, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Thank you.
Good.
Excellent. That's good to hear, guys. Cameron, I'll start with you. 8 league games now without a win. There's a sense that we could feel hard done by here at Middlesbrough. We had a good chance, especially towards the end of the game, but ultimately, again, no points.
Yeah, it's tough to take. I mean, obviously, the boys will be in the dressing room now, disappointed, obviously, head slumped and feeling the world's against them. Obviously, first half I thought it was a bright start. Obviously, get to go through a magnificent free kick from Mbenza again. I think him going off sort of disrupted the balance of the team slightly, changed the shape and formation. I thought Middlesbrough, fair play to them. They reacted brilliantly to coming behind. Obviously, got themselves back level with a magnificent goal from their point of view. Then obviously a penalty, and then there was really putting Huddersfield under pressure towards the end of the first half. Huddersfield probably wanting half time to come, but second half, total different game again. It's like, game of two halves, obviously, football, it is. But, you sat here again wondering, scratching your head thinking, now have they not got something from the game? It's incredible again.
When things are happening like this, Ben, and you've gone a period without a win and you're coming away, like Cameron just said, from games, scratching your head thinking, how have we not got a point or three from this one? And that's happening in consecutive games or a number of games over a period where you haven't won. What's that like as a player, and how hard is it to kind of change that negative momentum?
Yeah, it's not easy. I think that's where obviously your coaching staff and the manager come to the fore. Everybody's got to be together. They've got to have the same beliefs. And they've just got to work hard on the training ground. It's as simple as that. They didn't deserve to lose tonight. There's no question about that. Even Middlesbrough stayed with 11 men. I didn't think that Huddersfield deserved to lose. I agree with Cameron. I thought they were the much better team in the second half. They just can't get too down and can't start feeling sorry for themselves. You've got a really, really tough game on Saturday against a lot of people who fancy Swansea to go straight up, and with the way the results are going, Norwich having a bit of a blip and Brentford losing again yesterday to Barnsley, then all of a sudden Swansea win the games in hand and they are in pole position. So that's going to be a really tough game. But football is a funny game, and sometimes you get your points when you least expect to get them, and they've just got to have that belief.
Yeah, I think the belief is key, and you could see that, Cameron, at the start, couldn't you? I mean, he made one change and brought Alex Pritchard into this side. And to be fair, the midfield and Fraser Campbell, they were all linking up really nicely. One-touch passes, moving. They just look quite dynamic and lively in those opening stages.
No, definitely. I mean, like I said, at the start of the game really brightly. Obviously, O'Brien playing out of position at left back. But other than that, like you said, the midfield was getting on the ball. Some nice interchanges from the midfield. And obviously, with the forwards drifted in between the lines, getting on the ball. Nice, forward passes from Bakuna and obviously Huggy, and some nice little touches by Fraser. So it was an encouraging start. Obviously, getting the goal, going 1-0 up. You're just hoping they could sort of build on it and go, right, now we're 1-0 up. Can we just calm down, relax, get on the ball? Middlesbrough team are going to press at 100 miles an hour. Can we just play around them? Have the composure to play around people and, sort of pass them into submission. But, fair play to Middlesbrough. They sort of ground their way into the game, and, they won a lot of second balls, put a lot of balls in the box, and, obviously caused a little bit of confusion a couple of times from set pieces and stuff like that. So, obviously it's just disappointing to see, it's hurting me, like, thinking about, the boys in there thinking, you've been there as a player sometimes and you just you can't sort of get too downbeat about it. But like Ben mentioned there, alluded to, you're back to the training pitch tomorrow, maybe for a cool down for the boys. And then, it's a big game on Saturday. They're coming thick and fast now. I mean, Saturday, Tuesday, all the way through now. So the boys have got to pick themselves up, dust down and think, you know what, we might well get a win against Swansea. They're under pressure, because everyone's thinking, right, Swansea should steamroll Huddersfield, the form they're in, and obviously what's at stake for them. But this is sometimes football where you get points and results against teams you're not expected to.
Yeah, and that lively start paid off, didn't it, Ben? Isaac Mbenza scored a fantastic free kick.
It was a terrific strike. It really was. And just following on from what Cameron's saying there, I was so impressed with the way that they moved the ball, Huddersfield, in the first, sort of 10 minutes. So up until the point of the goal, Pritchard was in so much space. They were using the space really well. There was only one team playing the football, to be perfectly honest with you. And it was a really, really well taken free kick. It almost reminded me of watching Cristiano Ronaldo, the way he does it, the way he got it up and down and over the wall with so much pace. It really was a terrific free kick.
Yeah, he's been a revelation under Carlos Corberán this season. You can see, can't you, Ben, the confidence that Isaac Mbenza's got, and equally on that free kick, the way he stood over it, composed himself. We spoke a lot this season about him taking set pieces and how fantastic he has been at them, but you could just see he's got that confidence, that swagger.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to be hypercritical, you could say that perhaps the goalkeeper was slightly too far to his left-hand side. But you know what? Even if he had perhaps been in the right position, it was struck that well, straight over the wall with enough power and the right direction. That is obviously somebody, Isaac Mbenza, that is playing with a lot of confidence. And it was a shame, as Cameron's already alluded to, it did change the dynamic a little bit. And when he cleared that ball and I saw him twinge with his groin, I just sort of cringed a little bit when he tried to get back on the field, because when, we'll tell you, when that happens and you feel something go, you ain't coming back from it. And as much as he really wanted to, he would have been detrimental to the team. So it's the right thing. And obviously to himself, you don't want to sort of aggravate or make things worse when you know that you've already got a problem. And it's a real shame, because obviously when he can produce moments of magic like that, he's worth his weight in gold.
Yeah, absolutely. And frustratingly, Cameron, he's another one on the injury list. I think looking through the kind of key players from the last couple of years, I mean, Isaac's obviously out now, Christopher Schindler, Richard Stearman, Carol Eiting, Josh Karoma, Harry Toffolo's suspended. The list goes on throughout the squad as well. I mean, when things aren't going for you, they really aren't, are they?
Yeah, and sometimes, it's football. Obviously you get your injuries and suspensions throughout the season, but then it presents an opportunity for someone else. For example, the two young lads who come on, Rowe and Phillips, super impressed. Absolutely never seen them play before, especially Rowe. One of the best second half performances, 45 minutes performances I've seen for someone so direct, so quick, so dynamic. A little bit naive at times, but he was just hungry to commit people 1v1, give me the ball. He asked for the ball. I think he must have the most touches out of everybody in the second half. He was just as effective, if not more, as effective as what Watmore was for Middlesbrough. So, he'd be someone I'd be looking at if I was the manager and going, you know what, Swansea play a 3-5-2 formation with wing-backs. Let me get this guy isolated against those wing-backs, push them back. That could be the key to getting a positive result on Saturday. And obviously Phillips, I don't know what more he needs to do to get a goal. Great header, great movement getting across the near post. He did everything right in flicking the ball towards the far post. Great save by De Gaulle. And then the second one where Fraser lays it into his path. Great little disguise to reverse it again so the keeper can't get nowhere near it. And, it spun off the inside of the post and gone across goal. So desperate and unlucky, but what an impact those two young boys made tonight. I was really, really impressed with them.
Yeah, just touching on injuries before we go into those two, Ben. I mean, when you've got a team and a way of playing and you lose so many key significant players, even now with the likes of Isaac, it does have a negative effect on the team, the flow, the relationships.
Yeah, it does. And without being too negative, I mean, you could obviously see that. I thought that when O'Brien stepped forward in the second half, he made such a difference, and you can see how naturally he is playing further forward as a midfielder. And yet, you could probably point a finger and say, neither him nor Sarr did enough to stop Watmore for his goal. And obviously, he was just unaware of what was behind him when he gave the penalty away. And they're just some of the things that it's like putting square pegs in round holes. Yes, footballers can play in all sorts of positions, but sometimes when you don't think like the position you're actually playing in, it only takes a split second to catch you out. And that's what happened with Lewis O'Brien, who I thought was really, really good when he stepped into a more advanced role that he's more accustomed to. It is difficult, but as Cameron said, and as we saw, it does give chances to the likes of Rowan Phillips, who I agree were excellent when they came on, full of running, full of pace, wanted the ball. And, you know, I'm hoping that they will keep their places for Saturday, because they need that they needed that injection in the second half, and they got it from the pair of those.
Yeah, before we touch upon Middlesbrough's goals, Cameron, we'll discuss Kieran Phillips a little bit more. I mean, as a young striker, his movement was good, wasn't it, off the ball? He was always demanding it, trying to get into space. What did you make of his movement off the ball? You've touched obviously upon his chances.
I just liked how positive he was. He was always alive in the box. He was always, you know, off the defender's shoulder. I mean, I think the first sort of instance he ran on into the box, and I think he cut inside to get a shot away and slipped over. The turf looked a little bit slippy there, but straight away you thought that's positive. That's somebody driving, committing the defenders, forcing them back, trying to get a shot at goal, trying to make something happen. And the pair of them was the same. I mean, obviously looking at Phillips, obviously being a more of a focal point and a centre forward, I thought obviously with Fraser's craftsmanship and his work rate and his sort of work outside the box and his link up play, it then gives Phillips more of a chance to find space, and he looks like that sort of natural player what will elude away from defenders and drift off people. You know, and obviously you look at his finishes. There's nothing wrong with either one of them. He was just, you know, very unlucky on the day not to get a goal, but he looks like he's got a goal in him. So I mean, that's obviously another positive. You know, obviously looking around the squad, you know, you're thinking, right, where a win's coming from, where a goal's coming from, and you've got a young, you know, hungry sort of player with no fear. You know, like Ben said, you know, I think both of them should definitely be in contention for Saturday, 100%, because, you know, what else have we got to sort of go with at the minute with the injuries what we've got?
He's a different type of striker, isn't he, to Fraser? Like you say, Fraser will do all the dirty work, whereas Kieran Phillips is more of a poacher.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he reminds me of, you know, somebody of like a Vardy-esque, you know, with his pace. I mean, I think you've seen an instance where he ran down the side from the corner and this, you know, opened up a little bit, and I was just like, okay, I didn't really expect that from him, but you know, it was nice to see like that pace and that athleticism, you know, through the middle of the pitch. It can be a big weapon for you. So yeah, definitely, it does remind me of somebody like, you know, Vardy, who plays with that sort of arrogance and swagger about him. You know, and obviously uses his pace and his movement in the box to poach goals.
Yeah, Ben, talk to us about Aaron Rowan and what he did to impress you.
Well, for a start, he didn't hide. He came on the pitch. He wanted the ball, and that's always a good thing. You know, there were a couple of times when he was caught out and he lost the ball, but you know, he's a raw talent. You're looking for other things rather than him, you know, coming on and scoring a hat-trick. You know, it doesn't happen very often. It's Roy the Rovers stuff. But there are plenty of things that a manager and coaching staff will see from the way he performed this evening. And he was direct. He used his pace. He used his strength. And he will get better. There's absolutely no question about it. But the one thing that really impressed me was when he did lose the ball, and when he was sort of shoved off it a little bit, or he did give a free kick away because his positioning wasn't quite right, he demanded it back again. He didn't go into his shell. He went straight back for it. And that's a really, really good trait to have as a young lad. And I tell you what, he will cause defences problems. And the more opportunities he's given, the more confident he'll become and the better his technique will get. There's no question about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll touch upon Middlesbrough's goals now. Cameron, obviously, Duncan Watmore will grab the headlines for what was an excellent run and finish, but equally the defending it wasn't good enough, was it? It was too easy for him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, fair play to Watmore. You know, obviously he's used his pace. He's sort of sucked Sarr in a little bit into thinking he can win the ball, and Sarr's obviously gone over there, dived in a little bit out of position. Watmore skipped past him, obviously got into the wide area, you know, come inside O'Brien a little bit too easy. Then Sarr kind of got back at him. Then you're thinking, right, can you slow him down before he gets into the box? And he sort of, you know, beats him again, which is disappointing. And then obviously it's all about the finish from there on in. He's used the defenders and obviously just, you know, bent it into that far corner. So the execution of the finish was really good, but from a Huddersfield perspective, disappointing that it's skipped in there far too easy for my liking there.
Yeah, they just had to stand him up, didn't they, Ben?
Yeah, they did. We've already spoken about Lewis O'Brien, but I just think that in the position that he found himself in, I and Cameron will probably, and anybody who was watching the game will say the same. When Duncan Watmore first picked up the ball, you never once thought to yourself, this is ending up in the back of the net from him without actually touching anybody else. But he took his chance and he did dance past the two defenders really, really easily. But it was all about the finish. He used the two players then that didn't actually quite get out. Once he realised he'd gone past Sarr, he didn't quite get out enough, and he used them as the screen from the goalkeeper. Nothing he could have done. It was an absolutely brilliant finish, as Cameron said. The execution was spot on. Nothing that Schofield could have done.
Yeah, and then obviously the penalty that won it. You kind of hit the nail on the head earlier, Ben, about Lewis. It was kind of a move and a tackle that he'd have made in the middle of midfield, for example, rather than at left back in your own box.
Yeah, like I said, you know, he knows he's obviously playing that position, but sometimes when things happen very, very quickly, like that ball flashing across did, you just don't have the time. And Fisher, I think it was, who came in and he just nicked it off his toes, and he's come on his blind side, and he needs to open his body out a little bit more and just have looking out the corner of his eye and his spatial awareness to know where his opponents are. And yeah, I mean, it was as easy a decision as the referee had to make all night, I think, and that put Borough in front, and probably at that moment in time in the game, just about what they deserved.
Yeah, we were under the cosh at that point. I mean, Cameron, obviously the penalty just went under the body of Ryan Schofield. It is hard for goalkeepers, obviously, to try and stop a penalty, but equally when you see it just squeeze under the body, there's that little bit, isn't there, in the back of your mind thinking, oh, I wish he'd have got that, or he could have just got that, or done this little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, obviously goalkeepers, they look at they do a lot of study, look at a lot of footage. So you'd have probably known which side Ashley Fletcher was going. He did go early, actually, to be fair, to Schofield. He went quite early, but he's got to save that for me. Like, not being too critical of him. I know obviously he's a young goalkeeper and he's not had a lot of football, but he'd be bitterly disappointed looking back at that, thinking, he's guessed where he's going. He's gone early, but he's just managed to squirm underneath him. But like you say, goalkeeper sometimes it is a sort of a harsh one, really, because the striker is expected to score more times than not. So you can look at another side and say, well, Fletcher is sort of he's done what he's supposed to do, and that's to score a goal. But from the keeper's perspective, it'd probably be very disappointed with that.
Yeah, and we touched upon the force of change of shape inside the first half, and that really kind of set Middlesbrough going. In the second half, like we've already touched upon, the performance was more positive. We looked more threatening with the ball. Ben, what do you think changed? Was it the fact that Aaron Rowe was introduced and he gave us another dynamic down the left-hand side, which allowed Lewis to come into the middle? Or was it a kind of regain of confidence and belief in what we were trying to do?
I think there's certainly a little bit of that, but I think definitely the introduction of the two young lads in Rowe and Phillips, and then the emergence of O'Brien into the middle, where you could see that he was much more comfortable and had much more of an influence on the game. And I think there was one occasion in the second half when, like you said, the confidence had come flooding back, and they turned the ball over. And I think it was Vallejo who stood on the ball when there were there were two or three, and they had men over. There was a real overload, and unfortunately he stood on the ball, and that was one of many chances and many opportunities that Huddersfield did create for themselves in the second half. And yes, I think it was a little bit of everything, but certainly the introduction of the two young lads with the pace that they've got as well, which allowed Bakuna to get on the ball a little bit more. I think that was a major catalyst for the upturn in the way that Huddersfield played.
Yeah, there's going to be frustration, Cameron, after this one and over a sustained period, because ultimately everyone likes winning football games. That's why we all love the sport. But equally, again, there were little positives to take into the game at the weekend. Like you said, the introductions of the young guys, elements of the performance, but we just need to kind of string it all together now.
It's not the first time I've watched Huddersfield this season. You know, they've performed quite well when I've watched them, and they've impressed me a lot of times. You know, especially with the way they dictate the football and their passing and their movement, possession, and you know, they've just been unlucky at times. And that's a championship. It's typical. You know, they come up against a typical team in the championship. They've not won for a long time. I think 7 or 8 games as well. So it was whoever was going to get their noses in front tonight. And you know, luckily it was Middlesbrough from their part, and disappointing it was Huddersfield. But I think Saturday's an opportunity, like you say, to try and put these things together, and you know, hopefully a more positive outcome can come from Saturday's performance.
Yeah, fingers crossed we can get a positive result on Saturday. Cameron, Ben, thank you very much for joining us, and Town fans, thank you for watching.